Welcome to Career Tools. This week, covering for your boss, Chapter 2, Email. Should be fun. Here we go. So a while back, we started a series on covering for your boss, which you and I have talked about before. It seems to have become a lost art, right?
Indeed.
In the first one, we talked about going to meetings for your boss. And we actually got some feedback from people like, my boss never asked me to go to meetings for him. Is that a bad sign? Well, it may not be a bad sign for you, but it may be a bad sign for your boss, right?
Exactly.
But when somebody's boss is on vacation or out sick, you may need to do more than just go to meetings. And one of the things that might be delegated to you is email. Now, before you give us our guidance, I have to say, you and I talked about this before we started recording, and there are a lot of people who are going, my God, my boss would never expect me to do his email. And folks, you're not unusual, okay? But we want you to understand, if your boss doesn't have you cover for her while she's on vacation in terms of email, it's just because you don't work for a highly effective executive boss. Wendy and I disagree. Wendy said, I think 80% of managers do this. And I said, no, it's more like 10. But of course, Wendy was thinking of the people that she knew at high levels who were highly effective and fairly senior and had admins and so on. But we're amazed consistently at the number of people who go on vacation and expect to be on mail all day, every day. And they always say, well, I can't not be. And yet we have situations where a family member is sick or hurt and they're off mail for a day or two and everything runs fine.
It's amazing.
Everything runs fine.
It's amazing.
I think the number of things that Manager Tools and Career Tools have talked about over the years, that the rationale for not doing them as smart as people think they are in terms of an idea is because I just can't. Because no one else does. Because there's a boogeyman out there and he'll get me. The idea of doing email 3 times a day rather than doing all your email, I just couldn't do that. We have an email culture. It's just false. And we have somebody who's in an email culture, starts doing their email 3 times a day, and they say, my God, it transformed my professional life. I'm getting all my email done. I don't feel burdened by email. I go home. I only check email once in the evening, and I'm fine. And this is one of those cases where, well, my boss has never asked. Well, someday you're going to work for a great boss, and he or she is going to ask, and here's what you do. So take us through it.
So the first point is agree on folders before he leaves.
The folders, you mean?
So these are folders that you're going to use to organize the email in Outlook, in whatever email client that you're using.
Okay.
The second one is keep it confidential.
What do you mean by that?
Which means whatever
you can't share it with anybody else.
You don't share with anybody else.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, good.
Don't delete anything because that can make people feel insecure that there's something there that you missed.
Now, would you add to that? I know I'm probably getting ahead, but not only don't delete, but there are some things you should mark as unread as well, right?
I don't mark as unread because I use the folders, but you can also mark as unread.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes.
I'm sorry I interrupted. Go ahead.
That's all right. So use the folders once he's gone. You need to agree that this is how you're going to do it.
Right.
That you need
we're going to define those folders here in a minute.
Exactly.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
If somebody sends an email that you don't understand, then
you don't
call
have
them
background
and ask
on or
them.
something. Yeah.
Like, don't just leave
Call
it or
Okay.
So, and ensure that everything is filed away before he returns.
Okay. Good. Okay, so agree on folders before he leaves. Now, there are some people who already use folders that follow some of our guidance about email, and we, of course, recommend folders so that you don't simply action email in chronological order. Oh, my God.
I just rolled my eyes, but you can't see that.
Yeah. Wendy just rolled her eyes, and she gave a British eye roll, which is particularly demeaning to us Americans. Yeah. So the boss says you're covering for me. What do you mean? Tell us more about this.
So the boss says you're covering for me, and you do need to have a conversation. That can't be the 2 minutes before he leaves the office and he's gone on vacation, or even an assumption that he and you bake that you're his number 2, and of course you'd be covering.
Right.
You do actually have to have a conversation about what that means, and what's coming up in the next couple of weeks, and what you'll need to do. And so one of the things is, how are you going to handle email? So there's kind of 2 ways to do it. You can handle email by signing in as him and going into his email box.
Yeah. And let me just interrupt you there. I think what you just said is a shocking revelation for probably 75% of our listeners. The idea that someone else would log in as someone and therefore send as them boggles their mind. And yet you and I take it absolutely for granted. It's normal among executives to do that. My admin will be answering my mail. There's a great many mails I don't see, even when I'm in the office, that my admin handles. And I think what's important is we need to help people understand that their assumption that that would never happen is false. It happens all the time. It may not have happened to you. Again, you may not be working for a great boss right now. But even if your boss doesn't have an admin, if he or she turns to you and says, you're my number 2 and I want you to handle my email, and frankly, I would do it if I were a manager or an executive, simply to help my number 2 understand the kind of issues I deal with that he or she doesn't. But I just want to be clear about that. Okay, go ahead. All right.
So that's one way to do it. And the other way to do it is to have all of his email redirected to your inbox. Right. So you need to know which one of those is going to happen first.
Right.
And then if you're working in his email, then you set up these folders in his mail. And if you're working in yours, set them up in yours. Even if you have your own system, it's better to set these folders up in your within your email, because that will help you find them later if you're asked about something or, and to when you need to brief him when he comes back. Yeah. These are the ones you need to deal with.
So in other words, there'll be a rule from him forwarding to you.
Exactly.
And in addition, you'll have a rule that says mail that was forwarded to me from my boss during this period, there are various rules about where they would go.
Exactly.
Good. Okay.
Okay. So the three folders are actioned. So this folder is for any email concerning an issue with which you have dealt. So you've done this. So this can be an email that you've replied to on his behalf, email that you actioned in another way, so where you had to send a document, made a phone call, updated a spreadsheet, those kind of things.
Right.
Any email where you discussed it with the sender and agreed a course of action.
But it's not in the email itself.
It might not be in the chain. Yeah, right. And meeting notices that you accepted or declined on his behalf. So those kind of things, anything that you took an action. And our recommendation is that as soon as you've dealt with the email, you file it and the response. You file it and the response
in the folder. In the action folder.
So when I used to use, I haven't used Outlook in 5 years, so I'm not sure how it works. But sometimes if you were signed in as someone else, the response could be in their email or it could be in yours. So you need to find out where the response is.
Right.
But if you file both of them together, your boss can see not only what came in, but how you dealt with it.
Yeah. And for those of you who are managers now, if you've got a number 2, hopefully you've listened to our casts about delegation and about pushing work down. It's one of the core behaviors of highly effective managers in terms of development of staff. I've got to tell you guys, you're missing the boat if you go on vacation and you're not having them handle your mail. Because you think of yourself as on vacation and, well, I'll just handle mail a couple of times a day, which I find interesting. When you're on vacation, you can handle mail a couple of times a day, but you can't in the office. And I think far too many people believe that they're indispensable.
Yes.
Which is just poppycock. It's just crazy. It's literally nut job crazy. But if you're a manager, why not try it with your number 2? Mm-hmm. Let your number 2 get familiar with your mail. Say, look, I'm going to an offsite. You're going to handle my mail today. And it's only one day, so it's not like the place is going to burn down. And then you get a chance to have a discussion with them afterwards about what surprised them, what they didn't know, mistakes they may have made. Because if they only make a mistake in one day, it gives you a chance to recover, certainly. Hey, look, I was an offsite. I had somebody else do my mail. They missed that. I apologize. If you don't have enough credibility, enough reputation strength in your firm that you could mishandle an email because somebody else was doing it and you weren't clear with them about what to do, then you really need to be working on delivering better results and having better relationships. And the fact is, results and relationships are completely intertwined with reputation.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
We hear so much about social media talking about reputation, and really what it is your results, your ability to get things done, how effective you are, and whether or not people know you and like you and trust you. You put those two things together, and that's the theme of Career Tools, right? Results and relationships. In fact, the Career Tools Trinity is results, relationships, and transitions, right? And I just think too many managers miss the opportunity, and hopefully this cast, you could reverse engineer it so that you could think about how to handle it as a manager. Mm-hmm. Good. Okay. And one other thing, I'll just make a mention. I'm sorry, I'm taking over your cast, Wendy. But if you're thinking about doing this, there's nothing wrong with thinking, if I'm on vacation, maybe what I ought to do is listen to the Manager Tools email about your admin and your email to get some additional details about guidance to give to your number 2, who's not your admin, but will be actioning your mail while you're gone. Okay,
Absolutely.
good.
Okay, so the second folder you want is a not action folder. So this is a folder for email that you've not done anything with. And it could be because you just didn't know what to do.
Didn't know what to do.
It's just like, whoa.
And I'll tell you something. I'm amazed at the number of people who won't say to their boss, honestly, boss, I didn't know what to do. And now if you work for me, I'd say, well, choose, guess, something, take some action. But if you're genuinely uncomfortable about it, it's okay not to do anything. The problem people have is they don't do anything and they don't mention it.
Yeah.
And the boss thinks everything's been taken care of, but actually there's something boiling in the back that they don't know about.
Yeah, I mean, if there's an email that says choose the 5 people to make redundant to lay off this week, you don't want to touch that email. But on the other hand, if you end up with 90% of the emails in that box, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Another thing too, if you get an email like we need a list of people who are going to be made redundant or be laid off, you can actually look at that mail, and rather than forwarding that mail to your boss at his personal or her personal email, you can send a text. We've got an email here that I think is dangerous. I want to talk to you. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with escalating, right? But the vast majority of emails are far more mundane than that.
Yeah.
Right. Good.
Okay. So there's something perhaps that she needs to make a decision on, and it's not urgent. And
this is another not action factor.
This is another not action example.
Right.
Or it's personal. So, it's from her cousin, it's from, a friend, whatever. So you would clearly not answer her friend's email asking her to lunch or whatever.
Right.
So this folder should be as empty as possible, covering for
It should be an exception rather than a rule that has stuff in it.
Exactly.
Okay.
The whole point of covering for your boss is that it's a test.
Yeah.
And the test is, can you work at that level? And the answer doesn't have to be yes, I can at 99.99%, but it does have to be at 80-90%.
Yeah, exactly.
And how many emails are in there is kind of a measure of that.
Yeah.
So have some faith in yourself. You've been trusted. Make a decision. Take an action.
Don't overuse the not action folder. It doesn't have to be empty, but let's make sure that the stuff you leave in not action really is because it is above your pay grade or because it's personal, and take a risk. Right? It's better to take the risk now at your level and have your boss provide cover for you. Sorry, Wendy's Mark's boss. Wendy goes back to some peer of hers. Mark made a mistake. It's all good. I've covered it. And when you come back and talk to me, you say, hey, dude, that you made a mistake here. You could give me negative feedback if in fact we're at that point. Or you could just say, listen, you did that wrong. It doesn't have to be a big dramatic, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. Because 99% of the things that happen day to day just aren't that important. They're not. And our fear of being in trouble, our fear of consequences is usually far worse than the actual consequence. I often tell people that being in a professional job, being a professional, as you're driving down the road, you see mountains in front of you. But you look in the rearview mirror, what you see is little bumps in the road. We make the future look bad, or we're worried about it. But in fact, you look back and you say, nothing really happened all that terrible. And we need to remind ourselves that if we don't see any big mountain ranges in our rearview mirror, that means there probably aren't any in front of us either. We're just making them that way emotionally. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I like to have faith in yourself. I agree with that one.
Okay.
And there's a third folder, right?
Okay, so the third folder is not urgent. So this is everything that comes in that's not critical. So depending on the way your boss handles email and what kind of things she gets, they could be status updates, they could be newsletters and advertisements, they could be all hands emails or thanks email. Emails that just say thanks.
Yeah.
I wouldn't delete them, but I'd put them in the not urgent. So the way to deal with this folder is to try and work out how your boss normally deals with these kind of things. So when you get a status email, if they normally send it out to the team and you receive it, then do that and file it in action. If she doesn't send it out, but it's a hot button for her, put it in the not action folders because that's the first one she's going to go to when she comes back. If she cares that it arrives, but she doesn't care what's in it particularly, then it's not urgent.
Good. Okay. Good.
So that's the folders you want to set up and have agreed with your boss before you go.
And by the way, if your boss doesn't give you this guidance, say before your boss goes, hey, look, I'm going to set up 3 folders to make it easy for us.
Yeah.
It's going to be not action. It's going to be not urgent and so on. You tell them what the 3 folders are. Use these.
Yeah.
And if your boss says, okay, well then.
Which of course they're going to do, right? Because if I don't have a plan, someone else suggested one, I'm going to go, all right.
And what's interesting is you and I are both high Ds. So we think, great, let the person I've assigned it to. For those of you who are high Cs, if you're a manager and you're thinking about doing this and you want to come up with 17 folders, that's fine. You're overkilling it. Yeah. But just these 3 will get you through the week or the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Good.
Absolutely. So our second point is keep it confidential. So managing your boss's email means that you see a lot more information than you would normally do. And that's part of the test of can you work at this level?
Right.
You might find out about relationships outside of your team. You might find out about layoffs. You might see things that you know are clearly ongoing arguments between departments that you thought that all was sweet between us and whoever, and apparently it's not. It's quite juicy gossip.
Yeah.
You might see personal email from family and friends, and you might see stuff about your peers.
Yeah, I have to tell you something. And when I work with executives and we talk about admins doing mail, and by the way, we're not talking about admins in this case. We're talking about any professional, although certainly an admin might very well do it if they're not following our normal guidance for admins actioning most of the managers or executives' mails to begin with. I'm amazed. It took me a while to realize that the theme about who got to see mail had nothing to do with how good the admin was. I meet admins all the time that you just think, you could be my boss. You're an impressive person. And that person just happens to love being an admin and is probably very well taken care of. The issue is really the level of micromanagement that the boss applies to his or her day-to-day tasks. Mm-hmm. A lot of high C executives refuse to allow their admins to do email. And they wonder how the high I's and the high D's are in the halls creating relationships and so on. And the high I goes, my admin does my email. And the vast majority of it, there are a few that I have to do. And the high C just shakes her head as if to say, how can you possibly do that? And my thought is, look, we understand that you don't see the world the way the world is. You see the world the way you are, right? And so the high C sees that interest in over managing things as being a plus. And there are plenty of high C conscientious perfectionists in the world who are very successful, much more successful than me. But what's interesting about it is they see someone else whose life is made appreciably better, where the risks are in fact almost non-existent compared to the fear that the perfectionist manager or the micromanager has. And yet that still doesn't convince them that it's better. No. And yet these are also the people that complain, I never have enough time to get things done. And they spend 3 hours every day on email. And I think it's important that we understand that if you're being asked to do this, the quickest way to fall off the earth is to do something that would violate that confidentiality. If your boss trusts you, and by the way, holy Toledo, if you don't think your boss trusts you enough to do this, then you need to be working on your relationship with your boss. But if your boss trusts you with his or her email, good on you. And don't you dare violate that in any way, because it'll take a long time to crawl out of that hole.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good.
So no matter how tempted you are, this information stays with you.
Yeah.
Confidentiality, to me, is really easy. You just don't tell anyone what you know. Anyone.
You don't.
Just don't tell anyone.
Yeah. So when people say to you, so you're doing the boss's email, you say, no, I'm not. They say, oh, I know you are. No, I'm not. I know you are. Tell me about this. No, I'm not. Now, I know you guys are thinking I'm lying. I'm not. I'm simply saying you can always just say, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. And the smart people in the room will go, he's not saying yes, he is, but no, I can't talk about it. He's saying, no, I'm not, because this line of conversation is absolutely beyond the pale. It's simply unacceptable. If a friend of yours comes and leans up to you and goes, I understand you're doing the boss's email. What do you think about that? You just turn to him and say, no, you're not. And no, I'm not. And you also sort of raise an eyebrow about the friendship. Dude, really? Yeah. You're going to suggest that our friendship would cause me to violate the trust that my boss has had with me? No way. No way.
Yeah, my other favorite reply is, I wouldn't know anything about that. So someone says, where's Mark going on vacation? I wouldn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
No. Just shrug it off. So this is my way of keeping things away from my thinking. So I put it in a vault and I don't think about it again. So if I open an email and I'm looking through email and I know I have to respond to a query and I find my boss has an email that's looked like it was the right one, and I opened it and it turned out to be personal, I just close it and don't think about it again. Like, you can spend a bunch of time looking for your name in your boss's email. You can look for your peers' names. You can find all sorts of information. And the saying, eavesdroppers never hear anything good about themselves, is absolutely true. Yeah. So your relationship is with your boss right now. It's not with an email that she sent when you first started or even a month ago. So don't read the emails, because you'll make yourself miserable. And two, if you do and you damage the relationship, that's all up to you.
Yeah. And again, flipping this on its head a little bit, as a manager, if you're a manager and you're thinking about doing this with your directs, if you wonder whether or not they'll do it, then you don't have enough of a trusting relationship with them. And that may be your fault or that may be their fault. But there's not a person in Manager Tools that I wouldn't open up my email to. Because the standard is, one of the standards I have is, would I allow them to see my email? And if I think yes, I'm going to tell my new assistant, she sees all my emails. And if you're living a life that you don't want people to see your emails, you're living the wrong kind of life to call yourself a professional. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed. I told a story during the financial crisis. There was a banking problem, and a banker I want to say in London, it may have been in New York, sending an email to a guy in London, actually said in an email, "Tell no one about this," in all caps.
That was part of the LIBOR scandal,
right? It was LIBOR. Unfreaking believable. How much are we paying you and how smart are you supposed to be? Apparently you have no social conscience at all. Anyway. All right. So
don't spend idle moments looking for stuff out of curiosity.
Look, be a professional, right? When you're being trusted with taking a step up, by gosh, earn it.
Take the step.
Earn it. Take the step up. Absolutely. Yeah.
So don't delete anything. So this one is easy. Don't delete anything. Just don't, right? Yeah. Even if your boss seems to get the most inane email newsletters or advertisements for stores or products or stuff, just don't delete them. Put them in the not urgent folder and forget about them. You don't have to do anything.
Good.
I've found that creative people, bosses that I've had who are creative, need lots and lots of input. So they have lots of very random things coming to their email.
And if you're not familiar with it, it seems not just random, but almost weird.
Yeah.
But to them, it's part of shaking up the cookie jar about what might fall out. You're shaking up the jar to see how things rub against one another. I do that all the time. I get emails about things I don't think I've been interested in, simply to remind me that for instance, I have an email that comes to me from Europe to remind me, you have listeners in Europe. Mm-hmm. These are the kind of things they're stewing in right now. And I ought to consider that. It's not the details of it aren't really valuable for me, but I have to be creative in my job, and I want as many inputs as I possibly can. So, okay, good.
Okay. So, or maybe this is another example. Maybe your boss is signed up to receive email alerts from her colleague's favorite store because she's trying to build that a relationship with that colleague, and she wants to be able to say, "Hey, did you see those shoes?"
Yeah.
That's what smart people do. So, it's maybe an accident, but it probably isn't. So don't delete it.
Good.
And then don't delete any emails that relate to work either, even if that would be your first instinct. I'm a big deleter, so so I would normally delete things. But one, your boss might like to keep everything and have a record, and then if there's things that are deleted, the gap will irritate him.
Right.
And the other reason is because when you cover for somebody else's job, you don't do all of it. Even though you feel like you're doing everything, you can't, because if those two jobs could be done by one person, they would be done by one person, right? So if there's stuff that you don't know what to do with or that seems unimportant, just file it in not urgent, then don't delete it.
Good.
So now your boss has left on his vacation, And then, so 3 times a day when you're processing your own emails, process your boss's emails too. So you might want to add some time, like maybe 10 minutes to your processing time on your calendar for your emails for each processing time, but don't add more than that.
I would add a caveat to this, which is if you're processing your email 3 times a day, but your boss does it throughout the day, you might want to add a mid-morning session so that you're not reading an email that's 3 hours stale. And in your boss's mind, that's ancient. And I don't think that's unreasonable to ask people to put a 15-minute boss email processing slot on their schedule. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to recommend that you don't add more than 10 minutes to your session because
people will learn how to get more done in the same amount of time.
It's a good practice for you to get your email done in 20 minutes instead of 30.
Yeah.
So first of all, we would recommend you process your boss's emails. So either reply or forward or add the task to your task list and then file the email and the response in one of the 3 files.
Right. You do that first is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't spend time second guessing yourself. Just get it done.
Yeah. You've been trusted with it. Make the decision and move on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now you have 20 minutes maybe for your email where you would normally have had 30 because you've cut the time down. Yep. And so now you can try getting your email done in 20 minutes.
We had an operations call earlier today. I was scheduled to spend 3 days out in California presenting earlier this week. I was only able to present to our client on Monday. I hurt my back on Sunday and I had to fly home on Tuesday. We called Danny Martin, who does our public conferences. She wasn't going anywhere this week. She flew out and on Tuesday and Wednesday, she presented to the San Francisco public conference that we had. She had a full Monday scheduled. She said this to us on our operations call. She had a full Monday schedule, 8 hours of work scheduled throughout her day. She got the call from me Monday morning saying, you've got to fly out because I'm hurt. I can't present. Well, I could have, but I would have been in a basket case going on vacation. And she said on the ops call, she said, it was amazing. I had 8 hours of work scheduled and I got it done in my 3-hour flight to Los Angeles or to San Francisco. And over and over and over again, work not only expands to fill the time you get it, it can contract to fit into the time that you give it as well. And this is a case where they're going to discover they can do their own email in 20 minutes. And by gosh, from then on, I'd be doing my email in 20 minutes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a really good, it's a really good practice. So again, reply forward, add the task to your task list, file the email,
done.
And you're done.
Good.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now speak to the sender if you don't understand.
Okay, so any professional would have let all of their contacts know that they're going on vacation or they're going out sick if it's a prepared thing, and that you would be covering.
Sure.
And those people won't be surprised to hear from you because clearly they'll know.
But it's possible your boss didn't
tell them, or the absence comes with no notice for some reason or whatever, and you might have to explain. Hi, I'm Wendy. I work for Mark. He's out sick, and I got your email, but I need some more detail in order to be able to help you.
You know, and they may say back, "Look, just wait until he comes back." Yeah. In which case, okay, fine. Yeah, no problem.
Absolutely.
Good.
So there's absolutely no reason not to make this call. There's no reason for feeling anything.
Nobody minds. Nobody minds.
No, they'd rather you've called than screw it up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we're going to encourage you to make decisions and trust yourselves. We don't want you to go around making wild decisions when you've got no information.
Exactly.
So if the email doesn't make sense, as I said, just call the person and ask them to give you more information and help you.
Yep. Good.
Okay.
Now, ensure everything's filed before he or she comes back.
Okay. So some people keep 16,000 emails in their inbox.
Yeah, and if that's
that gives me hives.
You're a nut job. And you don't want me to see your inbox because I might delete a bunch of them just to prove to you that 16,000 is a really bad thing.
Some people clear to 0 every day. And it doesn't.
Some people, all the professionals I know.
It doesn't really matter what kind of person you are or what kind of person your boss is. All of the emails that have come in while he's been away need to be filed in one of the 3 folders.
Absolutely.
You just go back to the date at which he left.
Right.
And above that, it should be all clear, apart from maybe a couple that came in Sunday night or whatever. So that's the professional things to do. It's like borrowing his desk. You leave the desk tidy and you wouldn't move things. So that's how you leave the email.
And if they ask you about something that's happened, you'll be able to find it.
Exactly.
It won't be lost in the mess of all the emails. You'll be cognizant roughly of when it happened because you were actioning the emails along the way. You'll remember where you filed it, and it'll be a quick search rather than a 10-minute wade through all those other emails as well. Now, your boss may choose to keep those folders. He may not as well. Yeah. She may decide, well, I'll just drag everything out of the file.
Yeah, they're temporary.
Yeah, totally fine.
They don't need to be there if they don't want them there.
I think that's it.
Yeah. Do you want me to summarize?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so agree on folders before he or she leaves if you can. Keep it confidential. Just don't tell anyone.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Don't
earn the trust that you have already been given.
Exactly. Don't delete anything. Use the folders as you're processing the email. Speak to the sender if you don't understand, and ensure everything is filed before they return.
That was fun. Okay. I like that. And, this is one of those topics, email, that everybody thinks. I think email is one of the most misunderstood topics or work-related items in the professional world today. The wrong assumptions that people have.
So people think it's my email.
Oh gosh,
my email and my desk. Because if it's personal, and it's not personal, it's information flow.
Yeah. It's not even yours. It's the company's.
Yeah.
You don't own it. It's the company's.
It's just ones and zeros flying around.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Well done. Great. Another good week.
Bye, everyone.
That's it, everybody. Hope it was fun for you. Hope it was enjoyable. Hope you learned a lot. Come back next week. After all, it's spring and it's baseball, and you never know.